G'day everyone and welcome along to another Toon Under podcast, the Southern Hemisphere's original and best Newcastle United podcast. And we actually think the biggest non-UK, the Southern Hemisphere. Craig's got the cup, so yeah, if you want one of those, hit him up on socials. We'll flog you some tat. Yeah, look, we're joined today by Wayne from the L Files, which is Liverpool's biggest podcast for Australia, original and best, I guess, as well, you would say. Hi, Wayne.
Hey, how are you guys? Just to correct, it's actually not a podcast; it's actually a website, but that's all right. It's all good.
Cool. No,
good.
Glad
to be here. Thank you, guys.
No, thanks for coming on, mate. So we're joined by Craig as well, up in Mackay. How's you going, Craig?
I think summer's on its way in here in Queensland. It's 28 degrees today. That's not bad for the end of winter, is it? It's starting to get very warm very quickly.
Yeah, especially when we've got our Victorian counterparts down freezing their whatnots off at 6 degrees. Yeah, it's quite nice. So look, we're here to discuss the upcoming Liverpool and Newcastle game at St James's Park this weekend. But first, Wayne, give us a little bit of a spiel about yourself, why Liverpool, and why you started off the L Files website. Then
we do. Thanks, guys. So I guess Liverpool, kind of my love affair with it, started back in '86. I was a pretty young kid back then, but I was watching the FA Cup final between Liverpool and Everton. Saw a curly-haired Aussie by the name of Craig Johnston score a goal, and much like a lot of Aussies my age, I'm 50 now, but fell in love with Liverpool from then on end. During the late '90s, obviously, I'm a graphic designer by trade, but I moved into websites and all that in the late '90s, and I thought, bit of practice, why not start a Liverpool website? So that little hobby turned into a little bit more, and it's been running since obviously '98, and grown. Got a good worldwide fan base, a local fan base. Do a lot locally with the supporter groups. Co-founded the Melbourne supporters group. Worked a little bit with the Adelaide group as well, and was quite heavily involved with both tours in 2013 in Melbourne and in Adelaide in 2015. But I guess, as I said, it started with Craig Johnston, who, crazy enough now, and this is, I guess, what the website's kind of done for me personally, is that now he's a very good friend of mine. So that's, kind of life becoming very surreal. But yeah, look, I love the club. I love what they stand for, working class kind of roots. And that's pretty much where I come from. So I really identify with them. Been through the good times, the bad times, but yeah, look, love them to pieces.
No, that's excellent. So when you're 86, you started following them?
Yeah, 1986. I would have been, God, how old? I was 14 years old. Yeah, so showing my age. So obviously a bit different back then. Obviously, no internet and TV coverage of English football was very minimal. So it was either Monday night highlights or on the radio. But obviously the FA Cup was one of the few games shown live, so it was always a big thing in our household to watch that every year. So yeah, it's crazy
that international fan thing back in the day was such a hard thing to do, because you would literally be getting like these drip fed bits of information. You'd log in on a Monday to get results. Occasionally SBS would have like some highlights on, but it would be like 2 o'clock in the morning. That was just not an easy task at that point. It's so much easier nowadays with pretty much every game on Optus. It doesn't make the sleep deprivation any easier, it has to be said. But
no, it doesn't. I still remember the days where I would come back from school and basically wait for the Monday afternoon newspaper to see what the results were, and not knowing whether Liverpool won or lost, and you just see this little print about this big in the back page, little results, and you think, oh, they won or they lost. So yeah, times have changed for the better. For the better, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, this leads me on to one thing that I wanted to talk about, mainly with Craig here, but I'll get your opinion on it as well. Obviously, Newcastle's social media, Twitter, X, whatever it's called these days, has been a little bit of a kerfuffle on there because of a perception, which I personally agree with, of some rather over-the-top, zealous player call-outs and criticism based on the rather narrow defeat at Man City at the weekend. Now, Miggy in particular has come in for a lot of criticism. He's kind of just stayed out of it. Obviously, he's not quite as invested in social media, but Bruno actually came out and actually had a pop at one of the accounts, Nufc 360, who posted something about, is it too early to start criticizing players? Now, bearing in mind, we're 2 games into the season and we won the first one 5-1 against what was pretty much everyone was tipping as being a contender for top 6 or whatever in Aston Villa. They bought a couple of really nice players in the summer as well. So, that was a big statement. And whether or not people have gotten carried away with that and they've really sort of gone over the top and bought into this talk of like, oh yeah, no, definitely going to be title challenges now. And it's like, no, we're not quite there yet. And it's away to Man City, who are pretty much the best team on the planet right now. So,
yeah.
1-0. I mean, it's nothing, yes, we didn't play well, but it's nothing to like sort of wet your knickers over. Craig, did you see that going completely over the top? And how much do you agree with like Bruno's tweet?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with Bruno's tweet any more than what Bruno did himself. Yeah, I was fairly critical of Miggy in our own private chat, but again, I also correct myself thinking, then the very next game, Miggy could come and have a worldie, put everybody to the rights, and everything could be back how it should be. But yeah, 2 games in, 3 points on the board. We've scored 5 goals. We're not bottom of the table with no points, with 0 goals scored like it was 2 years ago. It's a total different way the club is approaching things these days. And we have to look back onto where we've come to where we are in such a short space of time. People just need to realize, remember that, just pinch themselves. This could all disappear at the drop of a hat if it wanted to. We are so lucky to be in the position we are in with the owners we have. And without Bruno coming in from that January transfer window, God knows where we would have been now. He saved our skin so many times, got us so many points. I think we was it the whole of last season. We only lost 1 game without Bruno in the squad.
Yeah, we didn't win a game without him. We didn't lose. Yes. We didn't win a game if he wasn't playing.
That's it. Yeah, he's such an integral part of the team, and to start criticizing him for having a poor performance against what you said is the best team in the world, nah. I think we need to give the heads a wobble and realize exactly the position we are in as a club. We are definitely on the up. We're not on a downward slide, and it was probably taken out of context as a follow-up tweet from Nufc 360 said. But either way, the damage was done, and the fan base was rightly so up in arms about it, and everybody is on Bruno's side, I reckon.
Well, I think it's that sort of catch-22 situation. I mean, Wayne, you've said it's like you started off a website back in the day when it was just starting to become a thing, and it was like, yeah, let's get involved in this. And now obviously we've come sort of full circle and everything's starting to kind of be online now, and everyone's got this instant sort of reaction capabilities these days. And sometimes it's almost like you want to be able to take a step backwards before you launch into some sort of tirade. And I mean, it's not just Newcastle. I think you see it at every club, and I'm sure you've seen it with some of the Liverpool players being criticised.
Every day. Look, I just want to say that the conversations or these comments that are made online, that's the kind of stuff before the internet you just would have gone to work and spoken to your mates about or your work colleagues about. And these days, those comments basically get aired and literally, potentially millions of people, can see it if it goes viral. And so it just kind of explodes. And so it's like you said, people just don't think about what they're saying. Yeah. And I'm all for constructive criticism, but I see it, as I said, I see it in the Liverpool fan base. There's always one week there's always some whipping boy. One of the players always becomes a whipping boy, the flavour of the month. Last season it was Henderson, Trent even for a while, Nunez even for a while as well. So I think also, like you said, some fans just need to be a little bit realistic. Who goes to City dominates and wins these days? No. I mean, even when we were basically going toe to toe, we rarely won, or at the Etihad. So you guys just belted Aston Villa, like you said. Yeah. You're a brilliant team, and they're going to do really, really well. So I think people just need to be a little bit more realistic about things. And you know what? I know some coaches don't like their players going online and saying things, but good on Bruno for doing that, because some fans need to pull their heads in.
Yeah, I mean, there's a massive difference between being just, and I've said this online as well on my own account, is there's a massive difference between being disappointed. You're allowed to be disappointed. We just lost a game. You know, that's absolutely fine. You're allowed to be critical, as long as it's constructive criticism about players that didn't perform well. Miggy did not have a good game. In fact, our whole front three plus Bruno had very poor first halves. And it's like, and I'm not being like too over the top in saying that, because they did. They weren't up to the usual standard. But again, you're against City, so is it just a case of they weren't allowed to play their normal game? You know, at the end of the day, we stopped Haaland from scoring. Sven Botman pretty much had him in his pocket for the whole game. So there are still positives to take out of that game. And it's like, well, let's be realistic here and sort of put things into perspective. Yeah, be disappointed, but compartmentalize that as a single one-off game. We're 2 games into the new season. We can't be like losing our shit over like a 1-0 loss away at Man City. And I'm sorry, but yeah, that there's just no call for the amount of abuse that some of the players are getting online for this. So cool. So we'll come into some of the new Liverpool players. 2 in particular I wanted to get your opinion on. Well, obviously Nunez, we were kind of linked with a little bit before you bought him. We then went and bought Alexander Isak. I think we're quite happy with what we've got. So you know, there's no major hard feelings on that one. And obviously the latest one in this summer was Dominic Szoboszlai. So first I'll get your opinion on Nunez, because he kind of had a bit of a slow start last season. What do you make of his overall gameplay and how he's fitting into the side?
I think Darwin is a bit of an enigma sometimes. He's I think there's definite talent there. There's no 2 ways about it, but he is just very and I say this not as an insult, but I think there's a maturity that needs to come to his game. And I think he'll eventually get there. We saw at Benfica, he was very, very good. No denying the boy does have talent, but I just think there's still a little bit of rawness there, potentially there. But he also brings sometimes, we like to call it chaos, to a game that sometimes is just so unpredictable. But I think he will come very, very good. And I think he's going to be very good for us. You know, there is a buzz when he comes on, because you just don't know exactly what you're going to get. But as I said, a lot of people seem to he's still very young. Yeah. And people seem to expect that, you know, you look at some of the best strikers in the world, and most of them, pushing, closer to 30, that's when they really, really peak. So he's a very young player who can learn and grow. So I think we need to be a little bit patient. And I think, also the price tag doesn't help, but he never set that price tag. So look, I love the guy. I think he's a bit crazy, and I think, he's still a little bit raw around in some parts of this game. And he never scores the easy ones. He just seems to score, like crazy kind of goals. But look, I think we've got a hell of a player there. And, we just need to be a little bit patient with him and just give him time. But I think he's going to do well for us. Dominic?
Yeah, the price tag's interesting though, because I think the more you obviously paid it was 86 million or something for him.
Yeah, something around that region, if I remember right.
And I think you expect
wasn't cheap.
Almost that finished product when you're paying that much for a player, or at least someone to come in and start. Maybe they're not going to get the golden boot, but and obviously, if you're then comparing him to Haaland, he comes in and there's a natural comparison there. There's a natural competition in terms of well, look at what they've got. We want someone that's banging the goals in as well. But it doesn't always work out. It doesn't always sort of match up. As you said, there's probably that little bit of maturing process, a little bit of getting used to the league. Yeah. We saw Dusan Vlahovic go to Juve for quite a substantial fee, and he hasn't exactly set the world on fire. They're on about trying to offload him now as well. So yeah, but what about Szoboszlai then? How's he started in life?
Yes, and just before I go on to Dom, I'll just speak about one little thing. It just kind of leads into something else in relation to. There's been a lot of talk, obviously, amongst our Liverpool fans and even the press, just about the whole upheaval in the backroom staff. The old guard of Michael Edwards, and his team, and how when he left, basically people were saying that Klopp and Linders basically became the brains trust as far as which players to identify, and they're kind of saying, that kind of unbalanced things quite a lot. And they're saying, that Nunez was kind of potentially, one of those guys that wasn't really thought through. I still have a few friends of mine that doesn't think, he's a Liverpool player. So, yeah, look, things going on behind the scenes that not necessarily ideal, but, yeah, that's, I guess, for better minds to maybe think about rather than my own. As far as Dominic goes, look, what can I say? Brilliant. I've got a lot of good Hungarian friends. I used to play for a Hungarian club when I was younger, just locally. But one thing I always noticed about Hungarian kids, or even the guys up there, is I was always technically so brilliant on the ball. And Dominic's exactly the same with that. He's just fantastic. And I hate to use comparisons, but he's wearing that shirt, number 8. And, even us, a lot of us were saying it's early days, but we thought, wow, we've actually got someone who maybe can do that shirt, Gerard's shirt, justice. He's got pace. He's got strength on the ball. He's very strong, even in tackling. He's aggressive. He tracks back, but he's just very intelligent on the ball, very smart, really good positional sense. I think we've got an absolute bargain on our hands. Very, very happy to have him. That's for sure.
Yeah, again, sort of wasn't cheap. He was one that I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't get in the end, because I thought, he ticked a lot of the right boxes to sort of come into the Premier League and really sort of set the place on fire. And again, he's really young. He's like captain of the Hungarian national squad. He's got that leadership capability as well. He's got that winning mentality. So yeah, I think personally you've got a very good player in your hand. Craig, you were quite keen on him, not quite as much as Diaby, it has to be said, but
yeah, look, both Diaby and Slobozai going to other clubs was a bit of a kick in the Jacobs, but we've signed some quality players ourselves in the same positions too. But yeah, Dom just looks like already almost a complete midfielder. He seems to tick every box that you would expect. And on his highlight reels, from what I've seen on YouTube, which is obviously never a bad way to examine anyone, but every time I've watched him play, even as the short highlights, he's been a cut above the competition, even at such a young age. Just one question on Slobozai. Did you think that penalty was deserved against Bournemouth the other day? Do you think that was a penalty, or do you think he made a little bit too much of that? In your honest opinion.
First thoughts when I saw it, Craig, was I thought, oh, it's given a penalty. Why? I thought, geez, Dom's did a nice big dive there, but I saw the replay, and yeah, he made a melee, but I thought there was genuine enough contact for a foul there. So I actually think it was a penalty in the context of the rules. You're a bit controversial. I can understand why. But no, I thought it was, and of course I'm going to say that because we needed it. But no, look, one thing that surprised me about him is you find when players come from other overseas, from other leagues in Wales, that there's a little bit of an adjustment. It takes time. Just given to the pace of the English game. And the Bournemouth game was played at a frenetic pace at times, but he, like you said, he actually rose above it. So I was really pleasantly surprised and a little bit taken back by it, because I thought, wow, this guy actually not only can keep up, but actually is dominating here at times. And Bournemouth are actually playing quite good, but they ran out of steam, and he was just running the show. So look, really glad we got him. And I think even though we paid, 60 million, I think, for him, I think he's a bargain. I mean, at least Chelsea didn't get him, so that's great.
Yeah, yeah. I wasn't going to bring up the players that Chelsea keep sort of apparently stealing off you, but now that you've brought it up, fair game. How disappointed have you been to see some of the players that, like, Liverpool have almost been ready to sign, and obviously Casado's debut for Chelsea did not go as planned. Did not set the world on fire.
He's a great player. He's a great player. He'll come. Look, I kind of. There's kind of this 50-50 with me. I'm quite frustrated about how it all panned out, because I just think maybe we kind of sat on things a little bit too long. But then again, I'm a glass half full kind of guy. So I thought, well, actually, we did get McAllister. We got, Szoboszlai as well. So I thought it's not too bad. And, look, I know we kind of got Endo just almost like a bit of a panic kind of B option, but he's actually quite a good player as well, and I think he'll do decent enough for us. But that said, it was a little bit silly the way it all panned out. And, look, I've got no hard feelings about Lavia and Casado going to Chelsea, if I'm honest, because I said, these guys, you want players that want to come and play for you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
If they're offering better wages and all that, fair enough. They owed us nothing. You know what? Good luck to them. But as I said, you just want players who can fill that shirt. I still think maybe we're one or two players short that's another kind of story, and I think we've left it a little bit late. So yeah, it's been. I'd rather focus on the positives, that's for sure. But whether that's going to come and bite us on the arse a bit later because we maybe left ourselves a bit short in some positions, we'll see. So, you know, we're probably another central midfielder and probably a left centre back short, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think any fan and any manager will be completely happy with any transfer window. There's always like, oh, we could have had that one last player, or we needed that one last sort of position strengthening. And, you know, I think we'll be in the same position where we, as fans, think we need a younger right centre back to kind of fill in for Fabian Schär to give us that strength and depth. Hugely happy with Lewis Hall signing finally being confirmed. So I mean, 18-year-old. We've got an 18-year-old on the left. We've got pretty much an 18-year-old on the right. And how old's 20-year-old on the right for Livramento? 19.
Yeah, he's 19, 20 years old.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the two fullback positions covered for the next 10, 15 years or whatever. They've got huge potential. So yeah, look, I mean, we're really happy with our transfer business, but there's always that, you know, we could get one more in, and it's probably not going to happen, no matter how much Adidas are paying us for the new sponsorship deal.
I think the frustration from our side is probably that. We sort of knew Henderson was going to go, all right, fair enough. And then Fabinho kind of went, and then there was the rumor of Thiago going in, and they already got rid of, you know, Oxlade-Chamberlain and, you know, and Navigator and Milner as well. And I kind of said, you know, that regardless of where their abilities were as far as, you know, in their twilight years, I said there was a big kind of leadership group there, seniority group that is left. And so if you're going to replace that, you need to get players that can come in and basically first team starters and of quality. And I think we sort of did that to a point. And I think, I think they kind of botched things up a little bit here and there. So, but as I said, it is what it is. I'd rather focus on positive, and the players that we've got in seem to have actually done really, really well. So early days, but as I said, it'd be nice to get one or two. I mean, look, the window is still there, so who knows? Just not another, you know, kind of hopefully freebie that just doesn't play, because we've had enough players that just sit on the bench injured all the time. So that's a big problem for us.
That's fair. I mean, to me, I think you've actually had a really good window so far. I think that the aging midfield issue's definitely been addressed. I think you've sort of rejuvenated that part of your squad, which was what needed to happen. Give you legs in midfield more than anything, I think, to cope with the pace of games. But look, I don't think anyone can get too upset if they lose out on players to Chelsea. I think their whole scattergun approach to, well, this club wants this player, so we're going to buy that player and pay over the top for him, and like, you know, well, you know, good luck with that. Good luck on your 52-man squad. It's not going to be a sustainable model for them in the long run. No. I'm more than happy with how sort of our club certainly is going about business, and I think you've done the right thing. And I don't think overpaying for players is necessarily a good thing either. No. You know, as I said, Caicedo, as good as he is, 110 million. 40 games in the Premier League. No way. That's just bonkers. Crazy. Even Declan Rice, I can kind of understand Declan Rice, because he's moving from a London club to another London club. He's got that English tax that we always keep talking about. And he's proven he can do it in the Premier League over a number of years, and he's probably only going to get better as well. You know, that's the level. And you look at Grealish went to Man City because, again, he's proved himself. He's gone there for that sort of price tag. But Caicedo, I think that's a massive overpay. Yeah, Brighton. To be fair, I'm impressed you got McAllister for as little as you did.
Yeah, was it 35 million? I think it was, which kind of really, really surprised me. I mean, he's a brilliant player. I mean, a World Cup winner. You know, him and Fernandez were pretty much, you know, kind of that engine room for the Argentinian World Cup squad. So yeah, very surprising. But I got to admit, I freaked out when I saw that 110 million kind of that we put up there, and I just keep thinking to myself, if you can put that on for Caicedo, why the hell didn't you have a crack at Bellingham? Yeah. You know, like, because I think Madrid only paid, what was it, maybe 15 million more, if I'm correct. But obviously they're offering him astronomical wages. But anyway, it was.
It is what it is.
Crazy.
Doesn't matter. We'll both see how we go in the season. So let's have a quick flashback to last season's 2 games in the league. The first one at Anfield, obviously both games Liverpool won. The first one was a little bit tetchy, shall we say? Some considerable overtime, shall we say, that was played.
Very lucky win. Very lucky win. Anyway,
I think Klopp has sort of made his feelings known on the time wasting aspect of the game, and he's had a few little pops about the sidelines and you know the new Newcastle rule with Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall not allowed to be in the box together at the same time. It kind of borders on a bit petty at times, I think, from a Newcastle fan point of view, when Klopp starts going on about all this sort of stuff. And I'll be honest with you, I don't feel he's doing himself any favors in terms of being a popular choice now. I think when he first came to the Premier League, everyone loved him. He was a breath of fresh air, but he has started to rub a lot of fans the wrong way these days. And, you know, it is what it is. Look, he's won things. He's proven he can do it. But look, that first game, what did you make of that at Anfield? Because obviously Isak had a goal ruled out for a very marginal offside as well. So it was a very, very close game.
Yeah, look, I got to admit, a draw was a fair result. Then again, a loss would have been a fair result for us as well. Don't get me wrong, I was ecstatic when young Fabio basically hit that winner, and God, what was it? It was close to like the 98th. Yeah, like ridiculous. Yeah. I thought that was a very tight game, and but look, in saying that, those are kinds of games that if you want to do top 4, even push for a title, you got to find a way to win those. And I think harsh lesson for you guys, but fortuitous for us, obviously. But then again, we couldn't really match that kind of intensity against lesser teams when it was needed. Look, I felt, those kind of marginal offsides really do my head in, because we got screwed over so many times with them. And, the offside rules become so convoluted these days that I still, in all honesty, half the time I can't even understand it myself, because I just thought, sorry, I'm sounding like a bit of an old bugger now, but, the old days where it was just, basically if you're in front, and otherwise give the benefit of the doubt to the forward if you can't rule it out. And I get it, VAR's there for a reason, but some of those decisions were just, his shirt collar or whatever, was a little bit marginal. I mean,
if you have to resort to like drawing lines and taking 5 minutes to see if it's like 2 millimeters more, then genuinely
just stick to the original decision. Yeah. You know what? This is what I said. I think, a lot of people will say that refs are incompetent, and look, that's for other arguments. But I think on this, I just think they've made it so complicated and trying to basically make something so marginal finite that it's just let it go. In all honesty, it's better to maybe
don't think it helps. Sorry, I don't think it helps that they change the rules every season either.
No, and that's just it. It's like, passive offside, this and that, and it's just it's hard enough trying to explain to my young daughters and my wife, who we were watching the World Cup, trying to explain to them exactly what offside is these days, and then they were saying, well, why was that goal led? I said, oh, well, that's kind of passive offside, and he wasn't interfering in playing. They're like, why? I said, I just don't worry about it, So here I'm thinking, I've watched the game since like, what is it? God, since the 70s. That's how long I've been around. So like, what hope does imagine trying to be a referee of this, and more importantly, try and be a player. So, and I also think those kinds of rulings just add to the frustration. I'm coming back to what you said about Klopp as well. Yeah, look, he can be a bit tetchy sometimes. I always think though Jurgen kind of says things very strategically, because I think he does it to put all attention on him, not because he loves his ego rubbed, but I always feel it just deflects away from other things that he'll get us. And I just always got a sneaky feeling to do that. As far as the time wasting stuff, look, you know what? Every side does that. Every side does it.
Thank you.
Look, when it's against your side, you hate it, right? And and if we're all being honest as football fans, everything that we hate about what other teams do that we accuse them of, our team does it all the time. Yeah. Every team does it all the time.
Liverpool did it to us, and I mean, all the Newcastle fans will hold our hands up and say we're the biggest shit houses in the Premier League last season. We wore it like a badge of honor at times, but at the end of the day, there was nothing untoward about what we're doing compared to things like Leeds and Bournemouth. And, you know, Leeds came to St James's Park and shut up shop and time wasted and fouled and just niggled all game and didn't let the game flow at all. And, you know, it is what it is. You kind of do what you need to do to get a game won. And the hilarious thing is they brought all these new time wasting rules in.
Yes.
And one of the biggest managers who was complaining about it last season when it happened to them, when Newcastle did it to them, got a player booked for it at the weekend and was complaining about the rules in Arteta. So yeah, that kind of made me chuckle, I have to admit. But yeah,
no,
so
look, go on, you go on.
I was just going to say I was going to head off to the second game at St James's when. Look, obviously. That was a little bit more cut and dried. I don't think Newcastle played badly. I think we actually started the game off pretty well. Liverpool scored 2 very good goals. But Nick Pope certainly didn't help our cause when he decided to have a bit of a brain fart moment, run out of his box, handle the ball, and get himself sent off, missing the cup final as well. Cheers, Nick. Yes. As much as we love Nick Pope, I'm not sure what was going through his head at that point. No. Look, I don't think we played badly for the rest of the game. What did you make of that?
I think we caught you at the right time. I think you seemed distracted in that game. That's what I found, that you guys played good, but I think the early goal kind of, maybe not knocked the winds out of yourselves, but I think, and I'm just making assumptions here, but I think maybe some players were already thinking about cup final.
For sure.
In some respects.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that can definitely distract you. So I think we had a little bit between our teeth. And I've got to admit that game actually surprised me because I was dreading it. I thought, Newcastle will win that one. So I was very surprised the way we actually played it. Look, just one of those games. I don't expect that'll be the case this weekend, but we can talk about that a little bit later. But no, I thought we played well. What was frustrating about that game was that, we were on a decent run around that time, but it frustrated me because I thought, why can't we play like this for most of the season? And that was our biggest problem last year. We just couldn't maintain that intensity and that mentality. And I think that was a lot to do with the fact the previous season just cooked us. I said that all year, that we just looked, people were saying, we're physically tired. I said, no, it's not that. I said, it's in their heads. I said, you play basically, 4 finals and you miss out by a bee's dick to City and then get beaten in Madrid. I don't care if you won the FA Cup or League Cup. That drains you. And even the parade, we never reinforced with the players that we needed as well. So they just looked exhausted. So as I said, that was actually a really nice, pleasant surprise, that win. That was actually, believe it or not, one of my favourite wins of last season, apart from the 7-0 smashing of United. That one, I had to get that in there. We haven't had a lot of luck at St James's Park in recent years. And it's always been usually a pretty, tight kind of game, or like a goal here or there. So, look, I really felt bad for Nick Pope, to be honest, because, you're going to play the cup final and then you kind of screw that up. Was it Karius? Karius played for you in the final.
Karius played, because Dubravka went on loan to Man United and got himself cup tied, so we couldn't play him.
That's right.
Either. Yeah, it was a bit of a mess. But Craig, we laugh about Nick Pope's little faux pas in that game, but I don't think we played too badly after that game. It was one of those things where, look, as Wayne said, it's that we had our eye on other targets, and we were in a bit of a rut in terms of results, I guess, as well. Around that time,
absolutely.
We were probably distracted, I guess is a good word.
Definitely, yes. We were already 2-0 down in that game before Pope got sent off anyway. So it's not as if the sending off had a major impact to the overall result. In fact, it didn't have any impact at all. Our heads were definitely somewhere else in the build-up to that cup final. Hopefully, they're a little bit more mentally prepared this season if we get close to another one again, because I would hate for the same thing to happen, because, as we know, it got very squeaky bum time towards the end for who was going to get Champions League qualification. And it came down to pretty much the second last game of the season, us against Leicester. And I think you were away. Was it away at Villa or was it Anfield?
Good question. No, that we were at home at Anfield. I remember that, and that was Bobby Firmino's last game. I think it was the 1-1. If I remember right. I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the game sealed your fate and clinched ours for the Champions League, I believe it was.
Correct.
And
Correct.
party time on Tyneside and no commiserations on Merseyside, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, look, you know, I guess I've got to hand it to Eddie Howe and his team. You guys did absolutely brilliant last year. For me, and I'm not just saying this because I'm on here, I know, you know, everyone was giving it to Guardiola because of treble and all that, but you look at the resources and everything he had. But he was my, you know, manager of the season, Eddie Howe. So I just thought he did absolutely fantastic. And what I've liked about, I guess, with Newcastle and, you know, putting aside what anyone else has said about, you know, your owners and you know, the history or whatever and FFP and all this stuff, that the players you went out and bought weren't, you know, you didn't just go and say, we want the best here, take that best player, that best player, that best player. You guys actually bought, you know, really good players, but not players that necessarily were on the lips of everyone. And you had a very good squad that played really, really well. You played very much the same football that we were playing a couple of years ago when we were at our peak. You know, really high pressing, attacking, you know, fast football. And as I said, that was evident that you guys were probably, you know, maybe a little bit jaded, a little bit tired, and with the cup of mind when you played us, because that same dynamics wasn't necessarily there. What you could have been. I mean, when you played us at Anfield, you were a lot better in that game. Yeah. So yeah, look, I think, you know, you guys were, as I said, we played good. But ultimately, you know, you guys got the prize at the end, and, you know, we just couldn't maintain that consistency.
Craig, you wanted to ask another Champions League related question, I believe?
So, regarding Champions League, what would the future hold for Liverpool and Klopp if you were to fail to get Champions League again this season? How do you think that would pan out?
Yeah, it's a very, very good question. I mean, look, he's got what? His contract's to 2026. Good question. Haven't honestly entertained that yet, but I think it depends. If we miss out by a B's, you know, B's little dick. But it's hard to say. I can't see him walking away unless he's maybe had enough. But I think I couldn't see the owners stacking him, not unless it's an absolute disaster of a season. I don't think it will. But having said that, I don't think top four is a formality. I know everyone's basically said it's going to be between, you know, the usual top four of us, Arsenal, United, and City, but I don't think that's the case. It's way too early to say anyway. I do think depth is going to come into question. Got some very good young kids, but you know, you don't necessarily win anything with kids. But yeah, look, ask me that same question again, probably around Christmas time, Craig. I might be able to give you a better answer. All right. Well, look, sounds good.
Look, hopefully it all pans out and we end up with the top five get Champions League this season, and we can.
That's all right.
A few more of us can sort of share it around, because I think that'll be good for the English game. Not to mention anything else.
Can I ask you guys a question? Very, very quick one.
Yeah.
How do you feel about your Champions League? Not actually in the tournament, as far as qualifying again this year. Do you feel it will be tough for you guys, or?
I think it'll be tough just because I think everyone's strengthened. I think it's not so much a top six anymore, a big six. It's probably like a big 8 to 9, 10, maybe even. There are a lot of really good teams, and it's going to just depend on who's playing the best football at the time. I don't quite subscribe to the pre-season talk where everyone just had us falling off and Aston Villa was going to overtake us because, you know, we had Champions League football. Well, Aston Villa's got European football this season as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And especially given they've lost Buendia and they've lost Mings now pretty much for the full season for both of those. You know, if they don't bring anyone else in, then their squad depth comes into question. Brighton, they have a conveyor belt of players. They keep selling players and keep finding new ones to take their place. That's got to come to an end at some point. They've got to hit the speed bump at some point with that. So look, it's still way too early to tell. I think it's going to be between Arsenal and Man City for the title. I think that's pretty much nailed on. And then I think it's any from another 6 or 7 teams, probably even that could potentially squeak in, especially if it's top 5. Chelsea, let's be honest, who knows what's going to happen with them? They're a complete basket case of a club right now. I think Liverpool, Man United, us, probably Villa are probably the more likely to be fighting it out. But again, it's gonna come down to, you know, who's going the furthest in cup competitions, who's getting sidetracked, who's getting distracted with other things, who's got the legs to see out the season. So yeah, 2 games in, too hard to call, but I think it's going to be pretty tight. Craig?
Yeah, I agree.
Champions League, to be honest, my expectations are, well, I do think we can beat anybody at home on our given day. I really do. So if we can win our home games, then that pretty much guarantees qualification to the next stage of the Champions League. Not many people don't make it that from winning the home games. But even if we were to finish third and go into the Europa League and have a very good crack at that, I'd be more than happy with that. Just get European football back on Tyneside for the first time since 2012 and first time in the Champions League in 20 years. Let's just enjoy the ride whilst we're on it and see what comes along with it as well.
Yeah. My last memory of the Juve game at St James's Park under lights when we were in the Champions League under Sir Bobby Robson. Andy Griffin 1-0. That's still burned in the memory. And if I wish you could bottle the atmosphere from that first game this season in the Champions League, because the opening game against Aston Villa, the atmosphere just watching it on TV was just insane. That Champions League game is going to be something else entirely. It's going to be pretty special.
Enjoy it, guys. Cool. Enjoy it.
We're all buzzing for it. It's been a long time waiting. I mean, we never thought we would get here this quickly either, to be honest. And I think it's kind of caught most of us by surprise. It's why we've pushed the boat out with the new sponsor deals. We've pushed to get the FFP sort of taken care of so we could strengthen the squad. So we've now pretty much got 2 players for every position. Some of them are young, yes, but they're very good young players. And we've kind of come unlucky with the likes of Anderson and Miley, who have come through the academy, 20 and 18, 17, respectively, that in pre-season they shone big time. And no, they're not going to play every minute of every game, but they're going to be there if we need to for strength and depth and, you know, the cup games, like the League Cup games and what have you. So you've still got that quality coming through, and it's given us that depth, and they could potentially save us an absolute fortune in the market as well for that midfield depth. So yeah, all good for that. Let's have a quick look at this upcoming game then. So we've got the team sheets coming through. Wayne, you've sent us through what your lineup was. We've actually substituted McAllister back in there for you, just purely simply because he got his red card overturned. What did you make of that red card decision, by the way?
Oh, dearie me. Ridiculous. Look, a joke. I'm not going to go into any conspiracy theories about who was the ref and who was on VAR, but anyway, look, it was crazy. The fact that it wasn't even reviewed, it irked me because everyone could see a yellow card. I get that, but there was no intent. It wasn't even knee high. It was just they were basically like lower, just going for the ball. I'm thinking, how the hell is that a red card? Yeah, crazy decision.
Contact, but it was so soft, and it was like, yeah, okay, look, if you give me a yellow card for it, I'm fine. But
I know
I'm not surprised it's been
exactly.
No matter how much I want my tinfoil hat on and say that it's red shirt, hashtag red shirt bias, but it was probably the right decision in the end.
You just get there's some refs that we hate playing when they're the refs because we just know we're going to get screwed. But anyway, luckily the results dropped our way, which was good. I'll make one change to this, and I did it very late, but I didn't realize Trent's actually fit, so he will probably slot in place of Gomez. But I would probably say that I'd take out, in hindsight now that McAllister's back in, I would probably say Gakpo will get dropped and Endo will probably come. I think Endo's going to actually start in that defensive midfielder role. So that's going to be an interesting one. Front three is pretty much solidified. Jota was very good last week. Mo, what can you say about Mo? Look, Salah, not necessarily at his peak, but he still somehow manages to always find a goal. Diaz has been absolutely electric. So, very happy there.
I was going to ask you about Salah because he's one of these players where he just keeps scoring. He keeps doing what he needs to do, but he's not doing it in an overly flashy manner. and he almost floated under the radar last season. No one was really talking about him, yet he was still like right up there on the goal scoring charts.
Was it 19 goals? Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, you know, I mean, everyone, what was it, all the Manchester United fans were going on about how great Rashford was, and we thought, well, Mo's had a pretty bang average season, but he was only 1 goal behind him. So look, yeah, Salah is just he's a ridiculous athlete. I mean, the guy just, I'm sure you've seen all those photos of him with his shirt off. He's got six packs upon six packs. He's just ridiculously fit. Hardly ever gets injured. In fact, I think the most he was injured is when after that Champions League one, when what's his name, Ramos rolled his shoulder. I think that was probably his biggest injury layoff. That was a long time ago. But no, look, he's brilliant, and you know, even at his age, he's just a phenomenal athlete and phenomenal player. I mean, look, he gets a lot of chances and he misses a lot, but he does score quite a lot. Whether this is his last season with us, who knows? I just read today that apparently the Saudis were looking to come in with £100 million offer for him. Yeah, I'm not sure at his age if our club would turn that down. No. Could fund quite a few new players or a couple of young players. But that said, he's still our talisman. He's still our best player. Really good.
You're almost reluctant to sell a player like Salah unless you've got someone either lined up or almost coming through. Like if Nunez was coming in and Nunez was scoring regularly off the bench, or he was starting games and scoring, you'd kind of be like, yeah, okay, that's a no-brainer decision. Replacing Mo Salah's goals, I think if you haven't got that kind of pipeline lined up already, I think that's a dangerous thing to do. To then you kind of hoping someone hits the ground running, and you've seen with Nunez, it doesn't necessarily work out that way, no matter how much you're spending on a player. So yeah, it is that kind of bit of a dice roll and hope for the best type thing.
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, look, we lost Bobby as well. He was kind of one of those old guard, and you don't want to lose another senior forward if Salah goes. So that is quite a youngish forward line. So without really any leaders, I guess, out there. Cody Gakpo, obviously we've been playing him in midfield, not to our liking, to be honest, but it's obviously was necessity. But I'll be curious to see what he maybe can do if he comes off the bench. He's a very good player, a very intelligent player. And, he has shown occasionally flashes of brilliance. And I think Klopp is maybe trying to mold him a little bit into perhaps not necessarily like Bobby Firmino, but kind of that link between midfield and attack, because Gakpo does have that kind of ability. So, yeah, he might even start. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. I think that front three is going to be pretty much as it is. But that midfield is, completely, still getting used to it. So, yeah, but I think Big Endo will start, and be curious to see how he goes. Obviously, very highly rated.
Nice.
And the back four, not what it once was. Obviously a lot of criticism. Even Virgil, he's not the player he used to be. That aura about him of being invincible, not there. But young Konate has been probably our best defender actually in recent games. And Robertson and Trent still can do stuff, but there's valid criticisms for both of them going out there at the moment. Trent obviously loves to wander into that midfield where we kind of switch that formation where we then kind of have a back three. And I guess, look, Alisson is just consistently, very, very good. Has the occasional, moment where you just go, what are you doing? Like he did against Bournemouth. But then again, he saved us against Bournemouth quite a few times too. So, but yeah, look, I think we're going to give it a red hot go. I'll be curious to see how our midfield does against yours. As I said, you love to play that very high attacking press, so it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, so this is our basically our piss take lineup that Craig put together. So we've dropped Bruno because Billy Big Nuts on Twitter decided that he's crap. So we're gonna go without him and put Longstaff in. So, but yeah, look. On a serious note, Craig, this is the lineup that you went with. So walk us through it and where you think our strengths and weaknesses are going to lie against this Liverpool side.
Well, it's a carbon copy to the game, to the team that started the Villa and City game. So we know Eddie doesn't make the change much at all. But we've got Burn, Botman, Shard, Trips across the back with Pope and goal. Big Joe, Tonali, and Bruno through the middle. Gordon, Isak, and Miggy up top. Now, I was contemplating taking Miggy out because he was the one player who I was disappointed with against City the most. And putting maybe Murphy in there. As you know, Murphy, he didn't make the bench due to becoming a father for the second time, I think it was. So congratulations to him. But yeah, he'll get his place on the bench again. Miggy will start. Isak, obviously, he got that goal at Anfield last season, where he was introduced to the Premier League on his debut. Cracking finish, should have had a second, as we briefly talked about before. I think he's going to be our main threat, purely on the fact that, as you said, Van Dijk's not the player he once was. And I think somebody with the ball at his feet who can run at him, maybe twist and turn Van Dijk in all different ways, left, right, and centre. He did send for a hot dog as well at Anfield last season when that second goal got disallowed, I remember. So he's definitely got that skill in his game. And the other one as well, he'll have a point to prove, Anthony Gordon. He's obviously got the Merseyside connection from the blue part of Merseyside. He'll want to put in a good performance, good shift. And if he can get a goal or an assist on there, I'm sure it'll mean more to him than it will to most of the players on the pitch due to that, again, that Merseyside connection. But I'm expecting big things from the midfield because that's pretty much where we lack most against Man City. And it's not necessarily the players' fault, it was the way Man City set up. But this game will be a lot more open, I do feel. And we will have the players to hopefully punish you this time round. And we are due to give you a good game at St James's. We're due a win there. And hopefully with the crowd on the back, War Flags putting in a good performance, it should hopefully be a cracking game and one that goes in our favour.
There is a little bit of a question mark over Big Joe. Joe Linton went off injured against Man City. Didn't look 100%. If he doesn't play, who would you want to play in his position? You looking at Longstaff or Anderson coming in?
I'd go Anderson. And probably drop Tonali back with Anderson and Big Joe pushing, Anderson and Bruno pushing forward.
Well, to be honest, I actually thought Anderson looked really good when he came on against Man City. I think he actually helped turn the game and give us a little bit of impetus when we had to go back at them to see if we could get the equaliser. Gordon for me is a weird one, like Gordon and Miggy on the wings there. I do wonder whether or not Miggy will get replaced by Murphy just to take him out of the firing line a little bit. But it's that catch-22. You don't want to kind of like give in to the internet bullies almost. You want to give him another chance to. And look, we all know that Almiron's got his deficiencies in his game. He may as well have a peg for a right foot because he cannot use it. But look, realistically, he's there for his pace and his work rate, and he works his bollocks off for the entire 90 minutes every single game. Gordon, to me, has started the season off really well, but the one thing I did notice is Isak was getting a little bit frustrated with him because when we were starting to press, you could see maybe Gordon was a little bit hesitant to commit fully to it in case he got caught out, which gave Man City a really easy ball out from the back. So I'm hoping that he buys in a little bit more to that high press. If we're going to do it, we'd do it properly, because it only takes, like, it's the same thing as with Alan St. Maximin when he played, and we were always complaining, well, look, if he doesn't press properly, the whole thing breaks down, because as soon as they give that easy ball out, then the pressure's relieved and it was all for naught. You've just spent a whole lot of energy for no real reason. I do wonder whether or not they'll switch. He'll switch Gordon to the right and put Barnes in on the left, because I think Barnes is impressed since he came in. There is talk that they're trying to kind of save Barnes for the Champions League and really kind of unleash him there. To me, that just does not make sense. If he's your best player, you play him. He's already scored one goal and had an assist, so you can't really ask for a better club debut than that. So look, to me, it's all going to depend on whether Liverpool sit deep. I think Klopp, I don't know if he will. Wayne, you may have a better insight into this. Do you think he'll try and sit deep and combat? Or I don't see Klopp doing that. I don't think his ego will allow him to go, right, we're going to play defensive here.
No. I think very much like you guys, we'll still continue with that high line. Chelsea nearly, were killing us basically because we had no defensive midfield cover, and our defense was really exposed. So you got some very pacey wide players. So it's. I think we could be in a lot of trouble if our press isn't right. So I think this game is very much going to be about who can get control of that ball in the midfield. So that's why I'm very keen to see. I mean, obviously you've got, the Italian boy coming in who seems to have been doing really, really well. Tonali's been, kind of said he's got that kind of Pirlo and Gattuso kind of, aspect of his game. And I said, we've, basically got a new look midfield, and this is probably going to be the first time that all three, have started together. So I can't see Klopp not playing Endo from the start in this one, simply because it'll give that protection that we missed so much against, especially against Chelsea, to our back line. But yeah, look, no, Klopp won't sit back. He'll probably, want to go for the win. You guys are going to probably come roaring out of the gates, and we're going to have to deal with that straight away. Because I could see, I don't have a good feeling about this game, I'll be honest. As Craig was saying, we're due a bad result, a good hiding maybe in particular at St James's Park. So yeah, I'll be interesting to see how we go. But look, I think this game's got goals in it for both teams.
Let's do the predictions then. That was my last thing.
Yeah, all right.
Anyway,
Okay.
Wayne, your prediction for this game?
I'm actually going to go for a 2-2.
2-2?
I think this is going to be a bit of a roller coaster, crazy kind of game. Very fast. I think you guys will score early, and I think then we'll maybe get one back, and I think something similar in the second half will happen again. So I am going for 2-2. I just think you guys will probably feel a little bit hard done by after the City game and want a point to prove. As for us, our away form last year was pretty bad. And I think we're going to come up against, another very good away team. And so, yeah, it's going to be a tough one. So I think 2-2 is potentially. I mean, look, but we do score goals away from home. So, yeah, I'm going to stick with 2-2, though.
Fair enough. Craig, what's your predictions for the game?
My head says a 2-2 draw as well, but my heart says a 3-1 home win.
I find us very sort of Jekyll and Hyde at the moment. I think if we go behind, we struggle. If teams can then sort of hold on to a lead. Why Aston Villa played a high line against us when they got back into the game, I just don't understand. But I think if we score first and teams push out, we've got blistering pace on the counter-attack that we can just cut teams open. And you saw last season, as soon as we went ahead in games and teams had to push out, that was where we got the 4s and the 5s and the 6-0s and the 6-1s, and we put teams to the sword. And I don't think any of us can forget that mental Spurs game last season where we 5-0 up in 21 minutes. It was a bit crazy, but I don't think it'll be anything like that. I think it will be I think we'll start quickly, but it'll be whether or not we can score. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win. I don't think it's going to be very easy though. So yeah, let's see how we go anyway. But look, we'll end it there. I think we've waffled on long enough. But thank you very much for joining us, Wayne. We really appreciate it.
Pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Really nice insight into another club. It's always nice to get guests on for these preview shows. So look, anyone who's watching on YouTube, if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave your comments below. And obviously we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts as well, so you can give us a listen on the audio podcasts as well. And thank you very much. And we'll hopefully not be too sleep deprived, and we'll get our review of the game out next week after we've hopefully got to 3 points against Liverpool for the first time in a while. Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys. See you, boys. Good luck. All the best. Yeah. Cheers, mate.